What happens when a former royal walks into the lion's den of late-night television, thinking she can control the narrative? It only took 38 seconds of heated back and forth before everything exploded in the most shocking meltdown ever caught on live television. The studio lights were blazing hot that Friday night as Bill Maher settled into his familiar chair across from his guest. Meghan Markle sat poised, her media training evident in every calculated gesture. She had come on the show to promote her latest charitable venture, but Bill had other plans. "So Meghan, let's talk about your time in the royal family," Bill began, his trademark smirk already forming. "You've said some pretty harsh things about them in interviews. Don't you think there's a difference between speaking your truth and just complaining?" Meghan's smile tightened just a fraction. "Bill, I think what people don't understand is the incredible pressure that comes with being in that institution. Every single day, you're being told how to dress, how to speak, even how to breathe." "Right, but you knew what you were signing up for," Bill shot back, leaning forward. "Nobody forced you to marry into the most famous family in the world. That's like complaining about the heat when you moved to Phoenix." The audience chuckled, but Meghan wasn't amused. Her perfectly composed facade began to crack. "That's an incredibly naive way to look at it, Bill. You're sitting here in your comfortable studio making jokes about something you could never understand." "Oh, I understand plenty," Bill replied, his voice getting sharper. "I understand that millions of people would kill for the opportunities you had. I understand that you got to live in palaces and wear diamonds that cost more than most people make in a lifetime." Meghan's voice rose slightly. "And I understand that you're just another white man who thinks he knows better than everyone else. You sit here night after night making jokes about people's real struggles." The studio went dead silent. Bill's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? Did you just play the race card on my own show?" "I'm not playing anything," Meghan snapped. "I'm stating a fact. You have the privilege of never having to deal with what I dealt with." Bill laughed, but it wasn't his usual jovial chuckle. This was different, colder. "Lady, you married a prince. You lived in castles. You had servants waiting on you hand and foot. And you want to lecture me about privilege? You don't get it," Meghan said, her carefully maintained composure completely gone now. "You'll never get it, because you're part of the problem." "The problem?" Bill's voice was rising too. "What problem exactly? The problem where you got everything handed to you on a silver platter and then complained when it wasn't gold." Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I'm not going to sit here and let you diminish my experience. You have no idea what I went through." "Sit down," Bill said firmly. "This is my show, and we're having a conversation here." "No," Meghan shot back, pointing her finger at him. "I'm done with this. You brought me here under false pretenses." "False pretenses?" Bill laughed again. "I brought you here to ask you questions. That's what I do. That's what this show Island." "You brought me here to ambush me," Meghan accused. "To make me look bad for your little comedy routine." The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut. Bill's producers were frantically signaling from the wings, but he was locked in now. "Nobody's making you look bad except yourself, sweetheart." The condescending tone of that last word hit Meghan like a slap. Her eyes blazed with fury. "Don't you dare call me sweetheart. Who do you think you are?" "I'm the guy with his name on the show," Bill replied coolly. "And right now, you're making yourself look pretty bad all on your own." Meghan's voice became shrill. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the kind of treatment I got every single day. Men like you thinking they can talk down to me." "Men like me?" Bill's patience was clearly wearing thin. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You know exactly what it means," Meghan hissed. The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some were pulling out their phones to record. This was going off the rails fast, and everyone could feel it. The carefully orchestrated talk show format was crumbling before their eyes. Bill tried to regain control. "Look, let's take a step back here. We're both adults. We can have a disagreement without..." But Meghan cut him off. "No, we can't take a step back. You've shown your true colors tonight, Bill. Everyone watching can see what kind of person you really are." "What kind of person am I exactly?" Bill challenged. "The kind who punches down. The kind who thinks he's better than everyone else because he has a microphone and a platform." Bill's voice got dangerously quiet. "I've been doing this show for 20 years. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, Nobel Prize winners. And you're going to come on here and lecture me about how to do my job? Maybe they should have prepared you better," Meghan snapped. That was the breaking point. Bill's face went stone cold. The jovial host was gone, replaced by someone who had clearly reached his limit. "Maybe they should have prepared you better? Are you out of your mind?" Meghan's chest was heaving with anger. "Yes, maybe someone should have told you how to treat guests with basic human decency." "Basic human decency?" Bill's voice was incredulous. "I asked you legitimate questions about things you've said publicly. That's my job. That's what journalists do. Journalists? Meghan laughed bitterly. You're not a journalist, Bill. You're a comedian who thinks making jokes about people's pain is entertainment. The audience was completely silent now. Even the cameraman seemed frozen, unsure whether to keep rolling. This had gone way beyond a heated debate into something much uglier. Bill stood up slowly, his height advantage becoming apparent. You know what? You're absolutely right about one thing. I am a comedian, and right now, you're the joke. Meghan's mouth fell open. Excuse me? You heard me, Bill continued, his voice steady but cutting. You came on my show thinking you could control the conversation, thinking you could spin your little victim narrative without anyone asking hard questions. Victim narrative? Meghan's voice cracked with disbelief. Are you seriously going to sit there and tell me I wasn't victimized? I'm going to sit here and tell you that playing the victim doesn't work when you're talking to someone who actually thinks, Bill shot back. You want to talk about privilege? Let's talk about the privilege of walking away from responsibilities because they got too hard. Meghan took a step toward him, her finger jabbing the air. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. None whatsoever. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Bill replied, not backing down an inch. I'm talking about someone who got everything she ever dreamed of and then threw it all away the minute things got difficult. Difficult? Meghan's voice was getting higher and more strained. They were trying to destroy me, Bill. Every single day, there were new lies, new attacks, new ways to tear me down. Welcome to public life, Bill said with a shrug. That's what happens when you're famous. Ask any celebrity. Ask any politician. They all deal with criticism. This wasn't criticism, Meghan practically screamed. This was systematic destruction of my character. Bill crossed his arms. By who exactly? Your husband's family? The same family that welcomed you in? Gave you titles? Gave you a platform to do good in the world? You really don't get it, do you? Meghan was pacing now like a caged animal. They never welcomed me. They tolerated me until I became too much trouble. Too much trouble how, Bill pressed? By speaking out? By having opinions? Or by constantly making everything about yourself? That hit home. Meghan stopped pacing and turned to face him directly. How dare you? How dare I what? Ask questions? Point out inconsistencies in your story? That's what I do here. No, Meghan said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. How dare you sit there and minimize what I went through? You have no right. I have every right, Bill replied firmly. This is my show. You came here voluntarily. You agreed to this interview. I agreed to a conversation, not an interrogation. Bill laughed harshly. An interrogation? Lady, if this is what you call an interrogation, you really were not cut out for royal life. The insult hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Meghan's face went completely white, then flushed deep red. That's it. I'm done. I'm leaving. She started to walk toward the exit, but Bill wasn't finished. Running away again? That seems to be your solution to everything. Meghan spun around, her eyes blazing. What did you just say to me? You heard me, Bill said, his voice calm but deadly. When things get tough, you run. That's your pattern. You don't know anything about my patterns, Meghan hissed. I know you ran from your first marriage. I know you ran from your family. I know you ran from the royal family. And now you're running from this interview. Stop talking, Meghan said, her voice shaking with rage. Why? Because you can't handle the truth? Because you're being cruel for no reason. Bill stepped closer. I'm being honest. There's a difference. No, you're being a bully, Meghan shot back. You're using your platform to attack someone who can't fight back. Can't fight back? Bill's eyebrows shot up. You've got a Netflix deal worth millions. You've got a podcast. You've got book deals. You've got more platforms than most people could dream of. What do you mean you can't fight back? Meghan was breathing hard, clearly struggling to maintain any composure. You know what I mean. No, I really don't. Explain it to me. I mean that people like you have all the power. You get to ask the questions. You get to control the narrative. People like me? Bill repeated slowly. There's that phrase again. What exactly do you mean by people like me? The question hung in the air ominously. Meghan's eyes darted around the studio, realizing she had painted herself into a corner. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity before she finally spoke, her voice barely controlled. You know exactly what I mean, Bill. No, I don't, Bill pressed, his tone becoming more serious. So why don't you spell it out for everyone watching? What exactly do you mean by people like me? The trap was set, and Meghan walked right into it. I mean privileged white men who think they can say whatever they want without consequences. A collective gasp went through the studio audience. Bill's face remained completely neutral, but his eyes were ice cold. There at Island, when you can't win an argument, you make it about race and gender. It's always been about race and gender? Meghan fired back, her voice rising to near hysteria. That's what you don't understand. Everything I've dealt with has been because of who I am, who you are. Bill's voice was dangerously quiet. You're a millionaire former actress who married into the most powerful family in Britain. That's who you are. I'm a woman of color who was targeted because they couldn't control me, Meghan shouted, completely abandoning any pretense of composure. Bill shook his head slowly. You know what? You're absolutely right about one thing. They couldn't control you. Nobody can control you, not your first husband, not the royal family, and certainly not me. What's that supposed to mean? Meghan demanded. It means you're uncontrollable because you refuse to take responsibility for anything. It's always someone else's fault. Always someone else's problem. Meghan's voice became shrill. How can you say that to me after everything I've been through? What have you been through exactly? Bill challenged. And I want specifics, not vague references to unnamed sources and mysterious attacks. What specifically happened to you? I'm not going to relitigate my trauma for your entertainment, Meghan snapped. Trauma? Bill's voice was incredulous. Living in palaces is trauma now? Having your wedding watched by millions of people who are celebrating you is trauma? You're minimizing my experience again, Meghan accused. I'm asking for facts. There's a difference. Meghan threw her hands up in frustration. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the kind of gaslighting I dealt with every single day. Gaslighting? Bill laughed bitterly. Lady, asking follow-up questions isn't gaslighting. It's called journalism. It's called harassment, Meghan shot back. No, harassment is coming on someone's show and then attacking them personally when you don't like their questions. The audience was completely riveted now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Some were filming with their phones, others just staring in shock. Meghan suddenly turned toward the audience. Can you all see this? Can you see how he's treating me right now? Don't drag them into this, Bill said firmly. This is between you and me. No, it's not, Meghan said, her voice becoming more frantic. Everyone needs to see this. This is exactly the kind of behavior that drove me away from public life. Nobody drove you away from anything, Bill replied. You made choices. Own them. I made choices to protect my family, Meghan said, her voice cracking. You made choices to protect your image, Bill corrected. There's a difference. Stop twisting my words, Meghan pleaded, but she was losing ground fast. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just not letting you rewrite history. Meghan looked around desperately like a cornered animal. Where's security? I want to leave. Now. Nobody's stopping you, Bill said calmly. The door's right there. But Meghan wasn't done yet. In a final, desperate attempt to regain control, she pointed her finger directly at Bill's face. You're a small, bitter man who gets his kicks from tearing down women. That's all you are. The studio went dead silent. Bill stared at her for a long moment, then slowly smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. And there's the real Meghan Markle, folks. When she can't get her way, she attacks. When she can't control the narrative, she lashes out. I'm not attacking anyone, Meghan protested weakly. You just called me a small, bitter man on live television, Bill pointed out. If that's not an attack, what is? Meghan realized her mistake too late. She had completely lost her composure on camera, and everyone had seen it. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant, Bill said quietly. And now everyone knows who you really are. Meghan's face crumpled. All the fight went out of her at once. I need to go. I need to leave right now. Security will escort you out, Bill said, gesturing to the wings. 2 large security guards appeared as if from nowhere. Meghan looked at them, then at Bill, then at the audience, full of people staring at her with a mixture of shock and disappointment. This isn't over, she said weakly. Yes, it is, Bill replied with finality. As the security guards approached, Meghan made one last desperate play. You can't treat people like this. Someone needs to hold you accountable. I am accountable, Bill said calmly. To my audience, to my network, to the truth. You're accountable to no one, and that's your problem. The guards gently but firmly took Meghan by the arms. She didn't resist, but she couldn't help herself from having the last word. Everyone will see this. Everyone will know what kind of person you really are. They already do, Bill said, as the guards led her toward the exit. That's why they watch. The heavy studio doors closed behind Meghan with a soft thud that seemed to echo through the silent studio. Bill stood alone on his stage, looking out at an audience that was still processing what they had just witnessed. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of television history.